Welcome to another edition of Vigorously with me, Val Kleinhans. We have the lovely Abbey Roberts in the building. She is the non-diet dietitian, and I cannot wait to chat about disordered eating, improving our body image, all of the above. Abby, thrilled to have you. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, I know we're going to dive into a lot because body image it seems like it's the never ending hot topic. We all want
Real
to like, for real, we all want to talk about it. We all want to understand it. Diet culture, it's
yes.
constantly thrown in our faces. So I definitely want to dive into all of that today. But take us back to the moment that you decided to pursue being a dietitian to begin with. What was going on at the time?
Yeah. So I could give you the long story and we would be here forever, but I'll give you the short on it. It's something that I talk about a lot, and it's on I have an episode on it on my podcast and on my website, but really, I struggled with my own eating disorders growing up, and
Mm.
started in high school throughout college, had no idea the type of resources that were available. I didn't even know what a dietitian did. I was super scared of going to therapy. And so it was just a lot of kind of the stigma around mental health, and um, I guess also the stigma around eating disorders and diet culture. So it happened very coincidentally. I ran into a friend one day on the college campus, and they were like, "What are you doing? What's your major?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm still undecided." And they were like, "Why don't you just do nutrition? I feel like you'd like it. Like you work out a lot." And I was like, Okay, like sure, maybe it'll teach me how to eat healthier." And little did I know it was going to open up this door to help me with my recovery, open up the door to health at every size, weight inclusive care, fat positivity, all of these things I had no idea even existed. So it it was kind of a blessing in disguise in a way.
Yeah, and a lot was happening at once. It seems like, oh my goodness, it was
Totally.
all that information was coming at you at once. What so but since then you've made it your mission to challenge the wellness industry, for lack of a better term, to
Mhm.
talk about body image, to promote positive body image, to challenge diet culture and what we've seen since, we were teenagers reading Tiger Beat. I mean, and before then, honestly,
Yeah.
it's been
Oh,
around
yeah.
forever. So how just to put people give a perspective on those that might not be familiar with the subject in general, can you speak to maybe some of the warning signs or things to note that
Mm,
we should pay attention to when it comes to a possible developing pattern of disordered eating?
totally. So I think orthorexia is probably the one that is the hardest to spot. So I'm going to just start on that one. And then the other ones I can kind of lump in together. But orthorexia is an eating disorder where you are very much prioritizing nutrient dense foods and the quote unquote like healthiest way of eating and living. So
Mhm.
I say quote unquote because health is something that I'm also constantly talking about, and how it's so nuanced and complex, and it is so much more than just diet and exercise. But within orthorexia, it gets praised a lot because people are like, "Oh wow, I wish I could be as disciplined as you. I wish that I could eat all of the fruits and vegetables and work out all of the time. You're so consistent." But truthfully, underneath all of that, there's a lot of guilt and shame that comes up around food and movement, body image. So I think like the warning signs with that one would be if they are voicing any concern about certain foods, if they're avoiding
Mhm.
foods or food groups altogether, if their day is completely ruined because they weren't able to do their workout. Within the other eating disorders, whether it's restrictive eating, binge eating, bulimia, the symptoms with those can, it's so individualized, but I think if I'm speaking very broadly about it, the symptoms kind of still hold the same of, if they're not eating certain foods, if there's worry about certain foods, but also if there's just a lot of comments about them not liking their
Mhm.
body, or they're comparing themselves a lot with others. If, say, I'm trying to think of like an example. Say someone is like meeting up with a friend at like a coffee shop, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And the barista, gets their coffee order wrong. They wanted a black like Americano, and the barista gives them a caramel latte. There's
Oh,
probably going to
no.
be a lot of inner turmoil that goes on with that, right? Because they're going to be
Yeah.
thinking about all of the calories that are in it. There's a lot of stigma around calories in drinks and how we quote unquote shouldn't be doing that. And that could probably throw off that whole interaction with that friend.
Yeah.
So many ways that this can come up. But yeah, I think those are probably the biggest warning signs when it comes to eating disorders and struggling with diet culture.
See, the one that I see a lot in my daily life is in the office where people are bringing in treats for somebody's birthday. People are bringing in donuts
Oh
for
yeah.
breakfast or whatever. And then, but then I hear the comment, I can't have more than one cookie. I'm going to be good today. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
ma'am, I'm sorry, but you're already putting good and bad in the same sentence as eating. Like that already is beyond me.
Red
I
flag.
What?
Totally.
How in the world? So, it's like, what do I do when what do you do when you start putting things into that perspective? What do you do to challenge it? Or should we be
Yeah.
challenging it?
Yes, yes, and yes. I talk a lot with my clients about like how do you set boundaries with people that are making comments like that, but also in a way where you're setting a boundary where it doesn't feel like confrontational because that
Mhm.
is scary as hell. So rather, I'm like, do you want to just change the conversation? Like someone says, "Oh my god, I'm so bad for eating this cookie." Do you just want to say, you know, all right, well, what are we meeting today on? Like what is the purpose of our meeting? Why are we here? Or like
Yeah.
look at like this really cool thing that I did at work, or my friend and I just went on this really cool trip, and just yeah, completely change the conversation. Because that in a way is telling the person, I'm not going to engage in that kind of talk. Like
Mm-mm.
this is not helpful. We're going to talk about something more interesting. It could also be if you are feeling a little sassy and it feels safe to do this, you can tell them like there's no good or bad foods. You can just eat the cookie and that's okay. Like that doesn't make you a bad person. Um, another example that I'll give too is like if someone makes the really uncomfortable comment of like, have you gained weight? Have you lost weight? And you're feeling sassy, bring it right back to them and go, I don't know, have you gained weight? I don't know. Have you lost weight? Like,
That's
no
genius.
good then, It's like, yeah, that comment wasn't great. Like, thanks for asking. Um, but also, if you need to leave the room and just kind of quite literally create space between you and that person or that comment,
Hmm.
if you want to politely tell them, like, please don't make comments about food or my body. A
Hmm.
lot of the times people will go, oh my God, I'm sorry. I didn't know that it came off that way. It's very rare, I feel like, that people will attack you for saying something like that.
Yeah.
But again, if you do, you likely already are kind of expecting that from that person. And so taking those other boundaries are probably the better way to go.
Yeah, whatever you have to do to lighten it or completely distract from the subject. I was stalking your Instagram earlier and I was like, oh my goodness, this woman has challenged diet culture in the form of the Tortured Poets Department. Please, let's have a round of applause for that. This is okay. So, for people that don't know what I'm talking about, I pulled it up right now. For
Yeah.
example, so what you're doing essentially is you're taking like songs from the Tortured Poets Department. We love Tay Tay, we love Mother, and we're comparing that to diet culture commentary. For example, my boy only breaks his favorite toys. That's the toilet after eating too much dairy. Who's afraid
Literally.
of who's afraid of little old me? That's carbs. That's me. I'm the carb queen. I can fix him. No, really, I can. When someone says they don't eat gluten and not for IBD or intolerance,
Yep.
but daddy, I love him when I need that $8 afternoon latte getting me through the workday. Facts. Major
A need,
facts.
need, not a want, a need.
Me after too much dairy, down bad. Also, I look in people's windows when I see a hate commenter, but their bio reads, oh, this is the kicker, because they say this every time. God first, mom of two, kindness wins. Oh my God.
It's crazy.
It is so, but that was that was wonderful. That made me giggle. I like And have you been, obviously you've been enjoying the album. I've been enjoying it too.
Yes. Yes, I
Cool.
have been. There are some songs in there where I'm like, "How the hell did she make that lyric? Like, you rhymed this with that, and I don't get it." And
She's Tay
yeah,
Tay. She can do it. I
wild.
don't know. I don't know.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
she is a
Here
wonderful
comes my
brain.
cat.
I have a black cat too. That's so
There
cute.
goes.
No, but that's a really great fun way to get us talking about something that is serious, and I would think that Taylor would agree with your use. Just saying, because we
I
know how
think
she feels. I mean, she's been open about her own disordered eating and her own struggles with external
good.
pressure causing her to second guess her own eating habits. Demi Lovato, she's another one. I mean, I kind of have always felt that like society has a sort of monkey see, monkey do policy when it comes to celebrity bodies being way overanalyzed in that way. I feel like sometimes some of the public can take it like as a license to just be mean or rude in life because they're seeing somebody else do it. So, what
Mhm.
do you think are some of the best ways like we can combat some of those intrusive questions? I mean, we talked about making a joke out of it. We talked about maybe flipping the script. What else are we
Yeah.
thinking?
Yeah, I think that that is always going to be one of the hardest things when it comes to body image or healing your relationship with food because and something that I also share with clients is like we can't control necessarily things that trigger us, right? Like
Yeah.
triggers are going to come up in real life. There's no way sometimes of knowing if a trigger is going to happen, if it's in like a TV show, if it's like your friend, if it's your family member at Thanksgiving dinner. Like there's so many things that we just can't prepare for. And so, really, what I help teach clients is just kind of like having some things in your toolkit or having some reframes to just help you in those moments, just kind of take that step back, zoom out, and go, where is this person coming from? Right?
Mm,
Because so much of the time, and I know it's a cliche, but it's true. If a person is making a comment about the way someone's eating, their body looks, the way they move their body, it is always coming from a place of insecurity, lack of knowledge, and being in their own bubble and not necessarily seeing outside of that. And so just helping my clients realize this of what they're saying is not actually about you, it's about them. And really helping to kind of further that understanding. And if that's not helpful in the moment, there's other things that we can do to help. So like I said, those different ways of setting boundaries. But also, if you are super anxious because of something that they said, what can we do to kind of ease that anxiety? One of like my favorite kind of tools with that is, and I don't even really know what it's called, but it's a dialectical behavioral therapy skill of like naming colored objects. So it's like looking
mm,
around the space that you're in, naming like 5 things that are blue, 4 things that are yellow, and making your way down to one. And it's a way of helping kind of your nervous system, your brain, your body feel centered where you're at, remind yourself that you're safe, and just kind of get more into the present rather than thinking about all of the what ifs. How are
mhm.
they perceiving me? What are they thinking now? It's just coming back to the here and now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
It's hard.
that's it is. Well, I mean, it makes it a little bit easier if you can sit back and go, well, that's just them projecting, because I don't know another word for what that is other than projection
Yeah.
or projecting. And but to calm ourselves down, you can literally take yourself out of that moment by distracting yourself with something else like this color example that you're using. Let's talk about the buzzword of the moment too, Ozempic. We've been hearing it everywhere. I am completely into Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and that word is everywhere on that.
Yes.
Sharon Osbourne throwing that word around, Kelly Osbourne throwing that word around. Everybody is. And I feel like I've just heard anything and everything about this supposed weight loss drug. I really don't know a lot about it, but that's what they say it is. And it just makes me like think that we kind of reverted to the 90s back in like the Slim Fast era.
Yeah.
It is wild. It is
Yeah.
wild.
It is. It really is. So there's a few things that like come to my mind with Ozempic. The first one is I have some problems with it, and then I also very much understand why there's all this hype around it and why people take it. So the first part of this is the issue I have with like celebrities taking Ozempic is that I think there's maybe 2 or 3 celebrities that I could name off the top of my head that have been open about taking Ozempic, and all the rest are
Mm,
chalking it up to lifestyle changes. Like Post Malone says that and I love Post Malone, but he's saying that he just cut out soda. I think like Kelly Clarkson was another one that said she's been like walking more. And I also love Kelly Clarkson. Like there's so many of these celebrities that just say, oh, it was just this one easy thing that I added or took out, and I lost all of this weight. Um, sure, that might be possible, but there's a lot of skepticism that I hold around that.
yeah.
Um, More so around the conversation of fat positivity and health at every size, looking at the lens of Ozempic. I get why people in larger bodies want to take Ozempic. The fact of the matter is that there's a lot of stigma and shame that fat people experience and face in this world because of the anti-fat bias and people thinking that they know something about a person's health because of their body size. And if taking Ozempic for weight loss is something that helps you feel protected in a world filled with fat phobia, I get it. Um, I, as a dietitian, don't think that it's my place to tell someone what they can and cannot do with their body. Rather, I'm like, hey, here's all of the research on Ozempic, the pros and the cons, so that you can make an informed decision of what feels best for you. And if you feel like down the line your mind changes about what that means for you, that's totally fine. We'll figure it out. Um, the other part with Ozempic that I think is really complicated is it's kind of like our new bariatric surgery within
Mm,
recommendation for weight loss.
mhm.
Prior to Ozempic, when people in larger fat bodies went to the doctor with quite literally anything that wasn't related to like weight loss purposes, like say they went into the doctor because their knee was hurting, right? The doctor wouldn't give them the same recommendations that they would for a thin person with knee issues. They would say, oh, you need to lose weight, right?
Yeah.
And if your BMI, which I've talked also a lot about, BMI is a really shitty, useless statistic that means nothing about health.
Woo!
Um,
Yeah.
they would go, hey, you qualify for this bariatric surgery. Like, let's get you set up when it's tens of thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah.
Now it's, we're not going to recommend this surgery. We're going to recommend Ozempic. And they're not sharing the cons. They're not sharing how it can cause digestive issues and complete lack of hunger, how it can mess up different like things with mental health and can even interact with certain medications that you need for mental health.
Yeah.
So that's like my other issue with it is not the reason that people are taking it, but more so the way that healthcare providers are going about the prescription.
Yeah, well, and how
Yeah.
much do we really correct me if I'm wrong, but to me it seems like a relatively newer phenomenon where to the point where we don't really know a whole lot about it yet. And we're still learning medically what it does, what it doesn't do. I mean, Tracy Morgan was, I think, one example of someone who said, I tried it and it didn't work out. It didn't
Mhm.
have the same result for me as it would have for Sharon or Kelly Osbourne or somebody like that. And bringing up antidepressants, that's a whole other can of worms too, because that would be one of my first questions as somebody on one. I would be like, how does that juju mix with, because I can't even take cold medicine with my antidepressants without like having an emotional cry fest for absolutely no reason. Like it's for no other reason than that chemical reaction. So it's like, well, hold on, if I get into this, how is that going to interact with X, Y, and Z? We don't know. And I think it's just a conversation you've got to have with your doctor, and there's got to be a lot more research done, I think,
Mhm.
before we really form a full educated opinion on it. At least because it seems like it's so happening so fast.
It's happening so fast. The media grabs a hold of it and then just puts out these stories every which way you look, with little to no nuance with it. It's just these hard, fast headlines. And that's really problematic because people are going to take that and run with it.
Yeah.
Something that I recently talked about on Instagram is how we have people that are not healthcare providers and do not have a background in like pharmaceuticals, especially. They're just taking Ozempic and then coming onto the internet and sharing their experiences like fact. right? So then
Right.
people go, oh, well, if that's happening for you and this person, if I take Ozempic, that must be my experience too. But we don't know how you're going to what side effects you're going to experience, especially based on medications you're taking. If you have a history of an eating disorder, disordered eating, if there's any autoimmune diseases in your family or that you're currently diagnosed with.
Yeah.
So we really need to just keep the conversation open, and you hit the head on the nail. Like, we don't have enough studies and research done to really tell us exactly what's going on with it.
No, not yet. And what's interesting
Yeah.
is you brought up the talking about body image and how we perceive ourselves as being a major piece to the puzzle that is challenging diet culture or
Mhm.
boosting our own self-confidence. I mean, I'm obsessed with like My 600 Pound Life and Dr. Now and TLC. I freaking
No.
love that show. Like because I mean, he's honest, but what he always does in every single episode is really say, look, you've got to do the therapy or the mental inner work before
Yeah.
I will approve you for, I'm assuming, gastric bypass, I think is what his patients do. But
I
uh,
think it is too. I haven't watched that show in so long.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's what they do. But he makes that a priority. The concept of do the inner work, then show me you can be consistent with an activity regimen, and then we'll talk about moving forward from there. So I would love to hear more about what you do as far as the inner work with your
Mhm.
clients and some helpful tips that we can maybe use to help us out on those bad body image days.
Yeah, body image is one of those where I really like have my clients pause and zoom out and just ask them a question like, if it's not about my body, what else might I be thinking about?
Mm,
Because so often on those negative body image days, it's not necessarily that we woke up with negative body image. Like, a lot of the times we wake up and we're like, okay, like I'm feeling myself. Maybe I had a good night's sleep. I just had a yummy breakfast, like starting my day out. And then something happens and body image just switches,
yeah.
right? So, whether it was like we got in a fight with a partner or a friend, if we had a really shit day at work, if we are getting super anxious for like a public speaking thing, we are
Mm,
nervous for an exam or just failed a test, like all of that is going to impact the way we're viewing our body. So, kind of reminding clients too that body image is so much more than just how you feel about your body. Body image is also how you're experiencing your body and the world around you.
mm,
So, another one of these things that's kind of a quick fix for body image is clothing, right? If you're wearing clothes that are super uncomfortable, they're tight, they're itchy, they're digging into certain areas, of course your body image is going to be more negative, right?
yeah.
If I'm wearing jeans that are just like suffocating my stomach, the buckle is just digging into my belly button, like, ugh, no one feels good with that.
It's not worth
So
it. Throw them away. Goodbye or
no,
donate.
so the radical difference that happens when you have clothes that fit your body as it currently is sometimes life changing, right?
Mm,
And I also share that that's a form of body respect as well, where we don't have to love our bodies all the time. We don't always have to feel accepting or neutral of our bodies, but we also can still show it respect in those moments. So
mm,
that could be, finding food that you enjoy or feel safe with. That could be finding clothes that fit your body comfortably or stretchy clothes so it can kind of change with your body as it changes. It could be taking rest. It could be moving your body. It could be having dessert, right? Like, there's so many things that body respect could be. Um, One of the other things too that I think is really helpful for a lot of clients when talking about body image is just kind of thinking about what is your current relationship with your body versus your ideal relationship. Not
mm,
talking about ideal body, but the relationship, right? So,
mm,
what is the barrier between the now and the future and how you want that relationship to look? What are the things that you feel like are coming in between that? And if there are things where it's like, none of my clothing fits, if it's things like I'm always feeling really bloated and that's shitty, then there's things that we can do to help relieve those symptoms so that we can get those out of the way. But there are some things where it's like, if you were bullied growing up because of your body,
mm,
if family members treat you a certain way because of your body, like that's going to take a little bit longer to heal from and create space with, but it's not impossible. Body image, like I've said, is complex. There's so many things that go into it. And I think even just realizing that piece can be helpful, because your body is not the problem. It never has been. It's fat stigma and diet culture. That's the problem. Like
Period.
that's the only thing.
Period. No, I feel you. And I mean, we just sometimes paying attention to those little cues can do a world of wonder. I mean, I know that as soon as I eat something, just in general, as I'm happier when I'm eating, like just in
Oh
general,
yeah. Oh yeah.
especially, I mean, within moderation. But if your body is telling you you're hungry, if you're feeling those hunger pangs, or if you're feeling a little jittery, or that
Mhm.
low blood pressure, things like that, go eat. It's okay. Like
Yeah.
it's it's completely
Yeah.
fine.
Totally.
I've had to work on that personally, where it's like, no, it's not a flex to say that I've fasted for so many
Mm.
hours or days or whatever it ends up being. Just not at all. And
I
trust me, when I'm hangry, I'm not.
oh,
Watch out! I will.
same.
Every pizza store within a mile to 20-mile radius better
Mhm.
hide all their dough and hide all the cheese and hide all the goods, because we're coming. It's
Right? The
we're
hanger is real. The
the
hanger is
hanger
real.
is so real. I feel so bad for my husband sometimes. I really do. Whenever I like, if we're on a long car ride or something, and I'm just like, "Ah, I need to eat something now," and he's just like,
Oh yeah.
okay, let me pull over. Like, he gets it now. He's like, I'll pull over at the next rest stop. But I'm like, I'm sorry for what I said whenever I was hangry. I didn't mean it.
That
I'm
wasn't I don't know who that was.
that was your
Totally.
podcast is called Hangry Thoughts. So I would tell me about the podcast, and what are you like when you're hangry?
Yeah. Oh my god, when I'm hangry, I am a similar way, so I have ADHD, and within my, like, experience with my ADHD is there are times where I just get really hyper focused on a task, and all of a sudden hours go by and I'm like, "Oh, like,
Yes.
when was the last time I ate?" And that's not an issue that I've always had. There were certainly times in my life where I was very preoccupied with food and constantly thinking about what am I gonna eat next? What am I gonna eat next? And now that's kind of shifted to, oh my God, I need food now or else. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like my hanger kind of comes up in the very fast slap in the face, like, oh my God, I feel awful. I need food immediately. So
Yeah.
then it's kind of running to the pantry, grabbing something quick, like fruit snacks or gummy bears, sour gummies. I love like the Sour Patch watermelons.
Mm.
So like grabbing those when I'm trying to figure out what else to eat. But yeah, the podcast is very similar to like what we're talking about right now, and it's taking some of the myths and hot topics that are floating around the internet. So like Ozempic, or another big one right now is how to lower your cortisol in a natural way, and
Mm.
talking about these things as, is this fact? Is this real? What are what is the research saying, and then like let's break that down. But it's also filled with like sarcasm and jokes, serious at times, but also kind of like the tortured poets department post of like, sometimes we need to lighten the mood, like let's be real.
It's so funny. What are the best places that you find to get the actual facts? What are some of the best resources that you found to get that information?
Oh, that is a good question. There are a few go-tos that I have. And really, I try to look for people that they're just not white cis people, because that really is like majority of dietitians is
Mm,
white cis women. And so trying to find more people that are diverse. So I really like Gloria Lucas, who is Nalgona Positivity Pride, who talks a lot about eating disorders and harm reduction within eating disorders. And she does such powerful work on like the global scale and then also individual. I don't know how she does it. Um, Delina, who is, I believe her Instagram is Your Latina Nutritionist.
mhm.
She's a dietitian, who speaks a lot to how diet culture is pretty much just food gentrification and all of the ways that racism,
Ugh.
healthism, ableism, all these things are wrapped up into diet culture.
Yeah.
And I also really like Christy Harrison and Evelyn Tribbley, two big ones in the intuitive eating world. Um, so I guess kind of like looking at the people that have the licensure and education to back the things up, not like your faith influencer that does like all the
Mm,
get readies with me, right? For
yeah.
like scientific information. But yeah, those are kind of my top ones, my go-tos.
Cool. So what's next for you? What's next for the podcast? Just in general, what can we look forward to coming from you?
Yeah. So I have a private practice where I do one-on-one work, community work, group coursework for intuitive eating disorders, body image, kind of all the things. And I just hired a new dietitian for the team, my first employee, as well as an assistant who is a dietetic intern right now to help, increase our one-on-one spots, really boost up the community and adding more accessible, cheaper resources to that. And it's really kind of more of a place where you can kind of think of it like a more secure Facebook group, right? Like
Mm.
the trolls on Instagram can't get on it. There's no discriminatory language. There's no before after pictures or numbers. Like it's just a place where you can come with like your genuine questions, like wanting to learn, wanting support and resources. And it's just like minded people that are wanting to maybe find what life is like for them outside of diet culture.
Mhm.
And it's even for people that maybe aren't fully ready to drop diet culture, which I think is okay. But maybe wanting to find some room in between those two. So yeah, that's kind of like my whole thing. And then the podcast is really just trying to find more guests to be on it to kind of increase the things that we are talking about in more diverse ways, get more lived experiences on there, and just keep on, taking down diet culture one by one.
Yes, let's go. Period. I love that. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for these nuggets of wisdom. I can't wait to see what's next. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.